watch. Now, on the front of shear, this is the wind shear forecast from the European model, and this will take us out to Friday. Timing, really, if you go out 7 days, that's Tuesday, you really want to go out to next week and see what the wind shear looks like. This whole time between now and then, this is Monday, let's go out to Thursday. I think I got to stop here. There is not a lot of wind shear here in the Caribbean at all, really. Even the Southern Gulf is pretty quiet. Now, something forms here, that's going to make it easier for something to form here. All right, and that's why the models are, some of them at least, are kind of jumping on this, saying we got to watch this area. If it does come to the north, look where it would be. It would be coming into a sheared environment. And that would argue that maybe it would get weaker as it moves to the north. But again, this is 10 days out. And I know what you're seeing a lot already on the internet of people posting these model runs so far out in time. We're not there yet. This far out in time, we're just saying, hey, there's an area we need to watch. Just came off of Africa. That could be trying to do something in about a week and a half or so in the Western Caribbean. So don't think that the season is over. Guys, the season now, I mean, if you look at some of the numbers, we've kind of, as you said, Dr. Nat, we checked off some names over the weekend. We had Karen, which avoided a lot of memes because it was in and out, right? Northeast Atlantic. But now we're through Lorenzo. Melissa and Nestor are the next ones up on the list. So, guys, that's what, 14? That'd be 12 named storms so far.
12.
That's average for this time of the year, but all the forecasts were well above that, right?
Yeah, and I'm looking at the kind of. I'll show you the NOAA forecast. What we looking at the very beginning of the season. Sorry, I just had this quick graphic pulled up from the very beginning of the hurricane season. Right, this is what your NOAA team was talking about: the 13 to 19 named storms, 6 to 10 hurricanes, 3 to 5 major, which kind of was jiving with what is average. Climatologically. Bobby just went through those names. We're at 12. As far as majors are concerned, we've had 3. All right, so we're right at where that forecast would be. But I get all these questions, you know, what do these forecasts actually mean? What are they actually forecasting? And we got to remember, they're not forecasting landfalls, they're forecasting development. So while we're still have plenty of time left in this season with that potential development, absolutely we could be hitting these forecast numbers, Dr. Knapp.
Absolutely, and you know, when you look at the seasonal forecast, the greatest signal that they have is formations in the main development region and especially hurricanes and major hurricanes. That, you know, the number of named storms is a little harder to forecast, and I think it's one of the least important numbers, because the numbers of hurricanes and majors, that's where the signal is in the seasonal forecast, and that's where most of the impacts are. And as you guys mentioned, you know, we've already gotten the average number of majors, and we still could get to the average number of hurricanes, especially when you consider what kind of systems tend to form in the Caribbean in mid to late October and even into November. They can be hurricanes, they can be majors, and you know, as you showed the typical tracks for November, where it gets harder and harder for systems to come into the Gulf and make landfall in the continental U.S. They tend to stay down in the Caribbean or go northeast, but they can still become hurricanes and majors. So in terms of the numbers, even though we had that notable historic mid-season lull, that doesn't mean we aren't going to have the season totals turn out to be generally what was forecast. But the problem with mid to late October Western Caribbean systems is their propensity to sometimes come north. And you know, we got to remind everybody too, guys, that you know, what month has had more hurricane landfalls in the state of Florida than any other month on the calendar? It's October, right? So even though we haven't had an impact yet, October is notoriously bad in Florida. Not saying that's going to happen, but it's a reason to keep paying attention.
Yeah, we just stick out like a sore thumb here, especially if they're coming in out of the Caribbean. If you take a look at the water temperatures here, that's not Lorenzo, but you can see just how warm the water still is. And that's all energy. That is fuel for the fire. Think of it as gasoline for fire, right? And you'd be looking down in these areas down at the bottom where you see all these purples. This is very warm water, warm enough obviously for tropical. What the colors here are 80 degrees or higher. okay? And this, again, this is not Lorenzo, but Lorenzo's way out here. But this area in the purple that you see here, that is very warm water. And especially when you get into the Western Caribbean here, it's warm, very deep too. Because when a hurricane comes over a system, over a body of water, the winds in that system will blow that top water away. And then water from underneath comes up to fill that void. That's called upwelling. And that generally brings cooler water, because the further you go down, generally the cooler it is. That brings that cooler water to the top, which essentially means less energy for the hurricane to use. But in these areas, it's plenty of warm all the way down, 30, 40 feet at least. So they can have some issues and a lot of energy, and that's one of the reasons why we watch it for this time of the year. You guys want to talk about, I kind of tried to draw here, and I'll show you this, the troughs that come through the central and eastern half of the United States. It's really hard this time of year to get a far east track to come all the way across, especially if it gains any kind of latitude, the further north it goes. But if it stays south, like this one may want to do, I always say weaker wester, because the weaker the wave is, it seems the more west it goes before it starts to develop. That may be what we're looking at here.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I always worry about the sneaky. Yeah, I always worry about the sneaky tropical waves that don't develop, And this is the kind of scenario over the next couple of weeks that could lead to Western Caribbean development. And that's often what happens. You get the Central American gyre just kind of sitting there with the pattern being favorable, and then you get a tropical wave that doesn't develop, and that goes all the way across, and then interacts with those favorable conditions that are pre-existing in the Western Caribbean, and then it forms and then tries to come to the north. And because this East Pacific system is in the formative stages with a likely chance to develop, the conditions are getting more and more conducive in this zone with upper level high pressure there. And as you guys mentioned, the waters are plenty warm in that area. And that's why, forget what the wave and the development chances are. Just looking at the pattern, you see the dashed white lines here, this upper level high pressure late this week, just sitting over the Western Caribbean and Yucatan. That is a sign that whatever moves in is going to have favorable conditions to work with. Yeah, and in here in Florida, Lou, we're close enough to that upper level low that we actually end up with nice weather at the time of that, but it's not necessarily something we want to see because of those chances going up.
Yeah, right. And here's, my thought with this time of year, and just experience here in Northeast Florida with, storms that have developed just off the coast or right there in the Gulf of the Caribbean. We've had a storm like, thinking back to Nicole, that'll ring a lot of bells here locally. Its lifespan was essentially November 8th through the 11th. That's quick. All right, not becoming a hurricane until it was actually essentially on the beach near West Palm. And so now we're getting to that short timeline, whereas in the middle of the hurricane season, you'd see those NHC graphics that give us 7-10 days, and then we get 2 weeks to really think about an area. Now it's like, well, something may develop right off the beach, might develop in the Caribbean, and you get 2 to 3 days to think about something that's then just in your backyard. Nicole became a Category 1 hurricane and gave some catastrophic flooding for St. Augustine as it moved across. And again, that was the first week of November, very, very quick. So we got to stay prepared, think about those quicker timelines as we get into this latter part of the hurricane season. And definitely don't let your guard down. Yeah, the season goes through the 30th of November, right? But what happens here in Florida, we get that first couple of cold fronts of fall air, that we kind of time that, we associate that with that time of the year where the season's starting to wind down. But we definitely have to keep our eyes open. Remember, I always say, too, it only takes one storm. Remember 1992. We only had 7 named storms the entire season, and the first storm didn't even form until mid-August, almost late August. And that made landfall in South Florida as Hurricane Andrew. Literally changed the building codes here in the state of Florida. Now, that's August, obviously, towards September. That's a busy time. But October, as Dr. Knapp says, is the #1 time for the state of Florida to possibly get hit. So something we will definitely keep in mind. We will stay prepared. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday.
And hopefully, you know, Lou, you get a little bit of a break here for a few days.
Yep. Got a week of absolutely picture-perfect weather. We do have one of those troughs digging in here by the Sunday, Monday time frame. That'll be our next best chance of rain. Hopefully that scares everything off and pushes everything away in the Atlantic side. But yeah, we got some beautiful conditions here in Northeast Florida.
It's absolutely gorgeous. Dr. Knapp, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for all your work with all these East Coast storms the last week or so. We'll all be keeping an eye on the tropics for the next couple of weeks together.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Bobby.
Now, the First Coast's most accurate forecast from the First Coast News Weather Team, certified by Weather Rate, sponsored by AC Designs.
Welcome in, folks, and a happy Tuesday, too. We want to thank Robert, or Bobby, Lou, and, of course, Rick Knapp up there at the Weather Channel for that discussion on the tropics today. We're going to bring them back a little bit closer to home here now, talk about our local forecast, at least for the rest of today, and really for the rest of this week.
Any change in the weather with our 10 Tampa Bay Plus app. Just stream for the latest forecast. Any weather impact.
To fall and eventually even more of a winter weather here across the First Coast. But otherwise, it's warm out there. Many of us in the low to mid 80s. Dry skies. Just a few kind of fair weather cumulus clouds bubbling up, but nothing in the way of rain today or really over the next couple of days either. Take a note here and look. We do have a very weak backdoor cold front kind of swinging its way on in from the northeast, but besides a few clouds, maybe one or two isolated showers for Flagler County and down towards I-4. That's pretty much it with regards to rain here through the rest of this week. We just have so much dry air in place that any shallow shower that might try to develop, even if it does, is going to be very light and will be rather short-lived. You might only see rain for, a minute or two. So overall, rain chances remaining very, very low today. Continuing for your Wednesday, tomorrow will be another rather cool start in the morning. Temperature's going to be in the low 60s. We'll watch for some patchy fog, especially west of the St. Johns River tomorrow morning, but by the afternoon, pretty nice. Now, temperatures are going to be a little bit cooler thanks to that backdoor front swinging in. We're going to have breezy northeast winds returning here yet again. So anywhere from about 10 to 20 miles per hour, gusts upwards between about 20 to 25. So it's not going to be as windy as it was last week, thankfully so, but it will keep us a little bit cooler. So highs tomorrow are going to be in the upper 70s, close to 80 degrees. And that's pretty much the mark we're going to set through your Thursday and your Friday, and you really can't beat it. Morning lows right around 60, afternoon highs around 80 degrees, so not a whole lot of variety in the forecast here, at least through the end of the week, and even into the start of the weekend. You'll note a lot of dry air still locked in place through your Friday and into your Saturday as well. So key point here, any Friday night plans you have, you're going out to some Friday night football games, we're looking good for that. I believe Oakleaf at Ed White is our Sideline 2025 game of the week this week. And really it's looking it's looking great for all the football games out there Friday evening. Similar story on Saturday as well. Any outdoor plans you have, it's just going to be picture perfect. Our rain chances pretty much remain at or near zero through the first half of the weekend. Now, as you look ahead to Sunday, you'll notice there a 30% chance of rain. So where would that be coming from or stemming from? Well, the high pressure that we have here through the start of the weekend is going to begin to move eastward. And we've got this nice big front trying to make its way in from the west. Now, it could actually bring some strong, if not severe storms across portions of the deep south. So Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky even could all see some, potential severe weather from this earlier in the weekend. But by late Sunday night and then into early Monday morning, we're going to be watching to see when this front reaches the first coast. Now, we're only giving it about a 30% chance of rain because we'll get these fronts that move in a lot, and more often than not, they kind of lose their gas and lose their steam by the time they reach that I-95 corridor. So we are expecting at least something in the way of rain, but the chance of widespread rainfall and or storms seems rather slim. So we're keeping the rain chances quite low here for Sunday and even into Monday of next week. But unfortunately, we actually do need the rain, especially for our inland locations. Out towards I-75, the Swanee Valley, and even up across the Okefenokee, many of you folks have seen below normal percentage of rainfall over the last 30 days. So from Lake City up to Folkestone, Nahunta, Waycross, you're all kind of in that 75th to 50th percentile range. So you folks have been very dry. Moderate to even severe drought conditions are beginning to increase for many of you across our inland locations. The flip side of that is our coastal spots that have had those onshore moving showers over the last couple of weeks. Now, of course, that's tapered off here the last few days, but St. Johns County, Flagler County, you folks have seen an excess of amount of rainfall. So kind of seeing both ends of the spectrum here currently with regards to how much rain we have seen, but everyone's pretty much going to be locked into the dry skies that we have out there, at least for the next couple of days. We're going to be tracking that front Sunday into Monday. That will bring us our next best chance for rain. I do want to leave you with a happy note here before we go. Fall foliage is definitely upon us, especially across the northern tier of the United States. If you're looking for a little weekend getaway,